Good evening. Welcome to the Anacortes City Council meeting of February 7th. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Hunt.
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Young. Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Cleland-McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Hubick.
Here.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Carter.
I move that we excuse Mr. Young from tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Carter, second by Mr. McDougall to excuse Mr. Young from tonight's meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, a number of announcements, and we got a number of committee reports, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. First, a little bit of a COVID update. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a meeting, and there's a little bit of good news based on the state's 7-day projection. It seems as cases are leveling off and even declining, and I say even declining because there's still some data that they're crunching. The other good news, vaccination rates are well above 70% in Skagit County, and I don't give an exact number because they changed the data reporting to from 12 and up to 5 and up, but again, still well above 70%. Also, the hospitalization rate was at a peak of 35.3 the week of January 23rd, and it's trending downward. So those are, I think, positive indications, but we're still watching it. For vaccines, the Senior Activity Center, Anacortes, will be hosting a vaccine clinic February 11th, 9:30 to 2 p.m. You do not need an appointment. At the Anacortes Public Library, February 18th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that's what I have for COVID. And I have some more, a better, happier announcement. So a couple weeks ago, since we haven't had our council meeting, we didn't have a council meeting last week, I had the pleasure to attend a water treatment plant award. The Anacortes water treatment plant was recognized by Washington State Department of Health for exceeding water quality standards for 5 consecutive years and have been given the Department of Health Treatment Optimization Award, top award, 5-year award. So that's good stuff. The performance of rapid rate filters for turbidity, which is particle removal, and disinfection is key element to protecting consumers from biological contaminants and maximizing public health. By optimizing water quality, the water treatment plant is able to cost-effectively provide a larger margin of safety and build greater resiliency to handle natural disasters and other unforeseen events. This award is a direct reflection of the hard work to all our utility team members do every day to keep the water clean and flowing to over 60,000 customers region-wide. So again, had the pleasure of getting another walk around the plant, and they do great work there. So that is it from me for council item 3 for your reports. So first one I've got on the list is Housing Affordability and Community Services Committee.
Yeah, Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland.
Thank you. So we had our Housing Affordability and Community Services Committee meeting on February 3rd and had a great presentation from Olivia Hickerson, and she is the interim director of Friendship House and has been kind of the lead person for Friendship House with respects to Burlington's First Step Center. So we just were curious to learn a little bit about how it's going since it started. It started on June 14th of 2021 with about 20 cabins. They are now up to 45 cabins. Typically, there's only one individual in the cabin unless there's a household that has multiple individuals. They have coordinated entry and procedures and policies that each individual person who enters the facility has to abide by, but it is a low barrier facility. And there are a number of services that are provided. There's mental health every Monday. They have access to the mobile crisis unit, which is provided by the county. Community Action brings their resources on Wednesday. Sunrise Services has some counseling and jobs training. Peace Health comes with a nurse to do vaccines on Wednesdays. Compass Health is available to work with residents and do some medication. There's bathrooms, there's a couple of showers, there's laundry facilities, and 3 meals a day. The biggest challenge is they've had quite a few folks go through the program, and I've got it here. The average stay is about 65 days, but their biggest challenge is we just don't have enough housing in the community. So once they finish the program, the challenge is where do they go? They try to provide services to folks to put them on a path, but that's, as we found with a lot of our committee meetings, it's just permanent housing is at a huge shortage. There's currently 45 cabins, about 80 people on the wait list. If you ever want to come talk to some of us, we'd be happy to share more information, but I think it was a really good presentation, and she was very willing to talk about how Anacortes, just because of our distance from the rest of the county, how we can try to work better together and coordinate. And there are still a couple of beds or cabins available for police drop-off. They've reduced it from about 5 cabins to 3 just because there hasn't been a need. So yeah, it's been a really good program, and it was really lovely to have her come and talk about where they're at with the county. And also, just as a point of interest, I think it's important to understand that the city owns and operates the buildings and land, and the city contracted with Friendship House to kind of run that program. And then it was also assisted with county funds. So that's what we discussed. We are going to have our first kind of makers who is handling our housing action plan on February 10th. Is it February 10th? Yeah. To discuss that a little bit further. So I think that's about all.
All right, thank you. Next up, 3B, Fiber Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Yeah, that's close enough. Mr. McDougall.
Yeah, the Fiber Committee met back on January 27th, so about 10 or 11 days ago. We're going to get, this information maybe a tiny bit out of date. But as you all saw, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a press release about the official awarding of that EDA grant, so the $2.3 million award. Unfortunately, and that award goes to helping fund construction of the fill-in areas east of A Avenue. Unfortunately, because of federal sort of procurement guidelines and project guidelines, we're probably not looking at being able to do that construction east of A to fill in the rest of the area till, best case kind of late 2022, but most likely that construction's happening in 2023. So that means, and I know there's several city council members and Mayor Miller himself are all in that geography, so we all get to wait a little while longer than we originally thought. Other highlights, as council is aware, construction is running a bit higher than, costing a bit more than was initially projected. And the department is exploring additional funding opportunities, including more grants and that sort of thing. We're also, fortunately, the initial business model was based upon, a certain cost and then 35% market share. Fortunately, in our areas that we've been most established in, M Avenue and Old Town and the CBD, we're running over 50%, 57% in Old Town and 52.5% in M Avenue and just under 50% in the CBD. So hopefully with the, that additional cost of construction, that additional market share and the revenue that we're pulling in can even it out. I think we'll probably try to run some numbers just to see what that looks like. And then finally, as of about 10 days ago, we had 1,039 customers in service. And let's see, a total of 2,400 actual signups. So we've signed up basically, oh, and in our expansion areas, like the west end, we've already got 32% signed up for that area. So that's great news. And that's what I've got for the fiber committee.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, it is great news, the sign-up rate and the percentage well above expectations. But if you haven't gotten it yet, hey, sign up, please, if you're in an area that we're already in. Okay, next up is Public Safety Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland.
All right, thanks. So we had our Public Safety Committee meeting on February 1st. We had Chief Harris there to talk about the fire department. We've got some vacancies, but they are in the process of getting filled. We are going to reapply for the SAFER grant for those 3 positions that we'd applied for in 2021 and just didn't end up getting. We've got Nikki Tesh kind of helping with that grant writing, which is awesome. We're still working on the Guimas boat. It seems like it should move forward and make sense for the Anacortes Fire Department to take over that responsibility. And then we talked a little bit about Station 3, which will be later in this meeting. With the police department, we had Chief Floyd there. He's really busy with the legislative session and working on those issues to resolve them from the last year. There's some openings again, but they're trying to work that out. We've had our kind of day shift police officers and our AFC, our family center social worker working in tandem together to kind of really to go back again and make sure all of the folks that are living either in cars or in RVs or on the streets that they're being provided services, and that if there are any RVs that are not being used as a residence, that we are kind of addressing any issues, especially when it comes to littering. So we've had a couple of RVs that fell into that where there was some litter that was present, and because we made contact, turns out that they're no longer being lived in. So we're in the process of removing a couple of those. So I think that's always nice to hear that the police department and Nina at the family center are able to kind of keep on top of that. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the school district and the success of our school resource program for kids, either students who don't have a lot of contact with police, that's a positive experience for them, or students who have a more difficult home life, and that being a good opportunity to create a relationship with a police officer. So that was great, and maybe seeing if we can expand that with our school district. And that's it.
Thank you. On to Port City Liaison Committee meeting.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Hubick.
So we had our Port City Liaison meeting about a week ago on Tuesday, February 1st. Mr. Wara spoke about the things that he will be presenting on tonight. So the Second Street Agreement and the Maritime Strategic Plan and the discussion around mutual access and assistance. One of the things that was brought up on the Maritime Strategic Plan is to be sure to loop in Jessica, the new executive director, out at the chamber to make sure that she's up to date on that. We would bring in Mr. Meismer at the city and just make sure that they're both looped in and communicating with each other. And we also just confirmed that our next meeting would be on March 1st. Quick and efficient meeting last week.
All right. Thank you very much. Public Works Committee. I believe they met just before this meeting. Ms. Moulton.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. We first spoke about the water treatment plant decommissioning of the older facility that's been ongoing, and the tiny bit of contaminated soil and the paint from the old building will be removed by the end of the year. And then there's an analysis going on to determine how much the rest of it will cost and where the money will come from for the rest of the buildings. And that money might come out of our reserves. We're not sure about the price yet. It will be in the $8 to $12 million range. So we'll learn more about that as the year progresses. The water system plan that we've talked about a little bit is underway. that's a very intensive planning process that is required by the Department of Health every 10 years. So that's ongoing and will be finished by 2023. And the staff will come to council with a presentation of how that's going here in the near future. Next, we talked about something that we've also talked about for quite a while, and that's our wastewater outfall replacement project. And Mr. Buckenmeyer, the Director of Public Works, will be here next week for council and the public, and he will be giving us a PowerPoint update on that project, all the details about the marine construction, and then the upland construction. So I won't go into details with that because he has all that, but we did see a preview of his presentation, and it's super interesting, and I think everyone will be glad to know what's going on there and the timeline. One thing I will tell you is that proposals will be coming forth for the marine portion, and that contract is expected to be awarded on March 7th, and the upland portion, the proposals will be opened March 15th, and hopefully we will be awarding a contract March 21st. And the first thing to do will be to get materials and to make sure we get those because of supply chain issues. And then as far as the actual work, that will all be later in the year. But we'll get the full update next week. So that's great. And that already looks like the end of it. I guess we talked about that for a while, but another great meeting with Public Works. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, any other announcements or committee reports that we may have missed? Okay, moving on to item 4 on the agenda. This is public comment, and this is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council. And I think anything that's not on the agenda, if you have something to say on agenda items, please wait till that time. But if you're here, go ahead. Yep, and just make sure the blue or green light is on. And
Okay. Hello, everyone.
oh, okay, gotcha.
My name is Barbara Nitis. I'm a public information officer from the Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance. So I'm specifically here for whatever happened on November 5th to December 2nd that were like flooding, mudslides, landslides, winds, anything that was during that incident. We're able to give assistance with FEMA. Of course, you register with FEMA and then you get referred to us. So we offer low-interest government loans for businesses of all sizes, homeowners, renters, and nonprofit organizations, including places of worship. For homeowners, we offer up to $200,000 for anything that was damaged to the home, physical damage. Anything that was inside the home, we offer personal property up to $40,000, and this is where the renters come in. They get also $40,000 for personal property. So for businesses, we offer up to $2 million, and it's also anything physical damage. And we also have the economic injury disaster loan. So anything that they were closed during that time slot, they're able to at least get, able to regain their business back, and they have that ability to at least, sustain all the economic injury. As far as nonprofit organizations, we also up to $2 million as well, physical damage, and also the economic injury as well, up to $2 million. As is also the same thing. The low we offer for homeowners, we offer up to 1.43% as low as that. That's the interest rate, and for businesses, it's up to 2.83% as low as that. And for nonprofits, it's 1.875%. So we recommend, if you do you do register for FEMA, as this is for uninsured and underinsured, we take care of anything that's deductibles or anything, no closing costs, as well as, so that's why as soon as you do apply, and if you do get it rejected to us, there's an other needs assistance program, which that means you get referred back to FEMA. So that's why we see, if you do have that, just see what your options are. That's the main motive. There's 3 ways to apply. We have the Disaster Recovery Center at Old Cedro Willie Library. That's 802 Ball Street. I'll give you the hours exactly. It's so Mondays is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesdays 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesdays through Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sundays is 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We also have you can also apply online on disaster loan SBA, disasterloanassistance.sba.gov, and also the 1-800 number is 1-800-659-2955. So we recommend at least to see what your options are. You also can, when you do apply, you can also check your status at the Disaster Recovery Center, at least to see what your, if you did get rejected, you can even ask there. That's why it's the one-on-one assistance if you have issues online. That's it. Any other
Okay,
questions?
thank you very
Try to
much
get that all in
for,
there.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you spreading the info, and we have all your handouts, and we'll continue to spread the word as we can in Anacortes. All right, anybody else for public comment? I think we have one other.
Okay, thank you. Good
Well,
evening.
Welcome.
Welcome, and welcome on your new election.
Yeah, thanks. And if you could just state your name for the
My
record.
name is Dan O'Donnell. I live at 328 North 3rd in LaConner, Washington.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'm here tonight to talk about the water system and the recent publication of the reconciliation. Maybe I can find it. Here we go, here we go. Gone. By the way, this is going to take more than 3 minutes. So tell me with 3 minutes and I'll shut up.
Okay, tell you what, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. Wow. That's a deal.
Well, you submitted this information in writing as well. I've received it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, earlier on, unless this is different information about a reconciliation. But Mr. Hoagland can help you out.
No troubles.
I won't count this against your time, Mr. O'Donnell.
No, no. Troubles. Disappeared. Yep. It's gone, it's gone. It's a 2X. Okay, there are only 6 things wrong with the way you do the reconciliation. You can read those as well as I can. I try to cover those 6 items in 5 minutes. Okay?
Okay, go for it.
I can't find sheet 1. Maybe this is it. No, that isn't it. No, it's not it. Shit. Oh. Anyway, sheet 1 shows that...
You had it if you went across the top for sheet 1, right about there.
Right about there?
Maybe one more over.
That's not the one. Sheet 1, we found it. You folks say we owe you $6,940. I hate to be picky, but you underestimated the total usage. You said total use is this number right here, right there. And what happened was there was a problem with Oak Harbor. They were $5 million short. So usage is higher than you estimated. Second, taxes and assessments were overestimated, $2,570. So when you get down to it, according to your figures, we should have paid you $6,786. Big deal. $153 difference. That doesn't matter. And then, God dang. Maybe try this. Your estimate for expenditures in the full water system are overestimated. As shown on this chart, $408,87,000 were assigned to overhead, and no reason was given. There was, and then by the same token, there's subtractions of water for parts. I don't know why that happened, but next we did take a look at oh shit. Okay, this is a letter I received from Mayor Gear, and at the bottom of this letter it says, I don't know how to.
So, yeah, there you go.
See that sentence down here? All metrics and procedures are based on the 2005 Gray and Osborne study. I wish that was true. They're not true at all. Here, for example, as customer records, says they're charged to accounts. They're not. They're charged to overhead, and they're allocated based upon the amount of usage, volume. So that's one of the things. And the same way with legal. If I could just find it here. This shows on the budget for 2020 that the legal fees are supposed to be split. They're not. They're allocated based upon usage again, based upon the amount of volume. So, in order to follow the budget, which you signed, we should split the attorney fees. Okay, and then sheet 3. I think it's right here. No, that's not it.
So Mr. O'Donnell, so I've got you at 5 minutes. I'm going to give you more time, but I just want to make sure the general principle is you don't think we're allocating our regional fees correctly.
Right.
Okay. And I'm clearly I'm not going to be able to go through these numbers specifically, but you also understand that, we have one city attorney and there's some regional water matters and there's some, what I like to say, retail to Anacortes matters, so we do have to split those.
Okay. Thank you.
But we can definitely take a look at it as we always do. to make sure we're allocating that as fairly as possible.
Yeah.
That-
That it?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, any other members of the public want to address the council? All right, we're going to move on to item 5, which is our consent agenda. Council, over to you.
Mayor Miller,
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
I would like to pull items 5C and D, please.
Okay, C and D.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall.
I move to approve items A and B on consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. McDougall to approve consent agenda items A and B, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Ms. Moulton, items C and D.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. So we have 2 contracts here for the purchase of 2 trucks for the Public Works Department. And when I looked at the prices between the 2022 Chevy Silverado, there is a quote from Blade Chevrolet in Mount Vernon and one from Jet Chevrolet in Federal Way. And it looks like we are leaning toward the Federal Way, Jet Chevrolet, because they came in with a bid that is lower by $91.10. And I spoke to Mr. Ludeman, the head of operations, and also to Ms. Swetnam, and sorry, I believe that this weighting reflects that by state law, we're not allowed to do local preference, much as we would love to. We have to go with the lowest price. But when I spoke with Ms. Swetnam just before this meeting, she indicated that she believes there's an RCW that allows us to take into account sales tax amount. Because if we bought it in Mount Vernon, Skagit County would get over $4,000 in sales tax, which is a benefit obviously to our community. And if we get it from Federal Way, they would get roughly $4,700 in sales tax. So we might have a little bit of wiggle room here. So I'm proposing that we pull this, and if we could, and we can ask Mr. Ludeman, if we could make an adjustment to our purchasing policy to reflect this RCW that we're allowed to use in our decision, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. I think we can wait a little bit of time on this one. I certainly want to pull the entire fleet and take a look and make sure we're doing that. But we'll take a look at these first, and yeah, we'll get back to you. So yeah, we'll pull item C and D from the agenda. And any more questions you have that I can take back to staff?
I don't know if Mr. Ludeman has anything that he wants to weigh in with right now, or not. I know that he's, we had a good conversation about this, but Will, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I can just say that the sales tax consideration is only for the one, the smaller amount vehicle. The other vehicle, there was only one bid, and it was Blade Chevrolet.
Yeah, sorry, I pulled both of them, but I only meant to pull the one. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to be able to purchase it locally. I've wished we could do that for years, so that's great if we have that kind of wiggle room in the contracting.
And now I can't remember if you want to entertain, go ahead and authorizing one of those vehicles, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I move to approve consent agenda item number 5D, which is buying the Chevy MD 5500 truck from Blade Chevrolet in Mount Vernon.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Moulton, second by Ms. Cleland to approve consent agenda item 5D, the contract award for the MD 5500 truck with service body 22047 ERNR 001. And Ms. Hunt, would you call for the vote on that one? Or, it's consent, we'll do a voice vote on that one. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks for that, and we'll get good answers back for the other Chevy.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Before we moved on, I did want to ask Mr. Ludeman if there was any time consideration on the other item, because it's not obvious to me that RCW allows us to consider the sales tax since we won't be receiving it, but the county will. So is there a constraint on timing, or can we wait a couple weeks to figure that out for sure?
I would say one constraint we have is the vehicles in stock. And as you know, right now, vehicles are hard to come by, especially one already built with a service body on it, such as this one. So if they sell the truck, they sell the truck, and we have to wait for another one to arrive or show up, which in this market is kind of difficult. So that is one hindrance we do have.
So maybe we could try to get this evaluated by next week.
Yeah, hopefully they can hang on to it. Hopefully they can handle the delay a week and we can get it resolved and bring it back next week.
Great.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall.
On this item as well, actually, wanted to let folks know that I had a really good email conversation with Mr. Luderman and Mr. Buckenmeyer around our vehicle purchasing and plans for purchasing, like especially long-lived vehicles like this, where its estimated life is 15 to 20 years. And I just wanted to get it on folks' radar that we should be looking at and making plans for purchasing electric versions or electric vehicles of this type as they become available. And, in that conversation, Mr. Luderman made clear that, this class of truck is not going to be available in an EV kind of model for probably several years yet. But to just have it on our radar so that that's something that we are planning for and can look to, set some dates and things like that.
Got it. Yeah, it's definitely on my radar, and we'll look at that as we evaluate the entire fleet. Okay. Any other comments as we move on to item 6, which is a public hearing? And the public hearing is for the 2nd Street right-of-way use agreement with the Port of Anacortes, which we had this discussion back in 20 December. So let's see if there's anybody in attendance that wants to comment for the public hearing portion of this.
Mayor Miller?
Yeah, Ms. Swetnam, please.
Would you like me to, I've got a couple introductory
Oh,
slides.
yeah, that would be a great idea. Please introduce this item.
All right. Can you see my screen okay?
Almost, we're waiting. And
How about now?
you're on.
Okay, great. So this is the 2nd Street right-of-way agreement public hearing, and as Mr. Mayor Miller noted, this was an agreement that council looked at back in December of 2021. So just to provide the background here, there's been ongoing discussions with the port since 2020 about their interest in using that 2nd Street area west of O Avenue for economic development and consistency with the Maritime Strategic Plan. The city and the port worked together and talked with outside counsel and identified that the Intergovernmental Disposition of Property Act at RCW 3933 was the best structure for the port's use of that 2nd Street area. City Council approved the right-of-way use agreement for 2nd Street on December 20th of 2021, but that approval was subject to a subsequent public hearing, after which the mayor is authorized to sign the agreement. So I know it's a little bit clunky having the public hearing tonight, but there was an interest in getting the agreement to council so that the Port Commission could also consider it as well, knowing that there would be a public hearing before that right-of-way is closed. And the Port Commissioners, they considered and approved the agreement on their January 6, 2022 commission meeting. So tonight's public hearing is the last step before execution of the agreement. So the key terms of the agreement are that City Council closes the area of 2nd Street described in the agreement, and I'm going to show you some maps here in just a second. The port then has the right to use that area for industrial and or commercial uses associated with the port's marine terminal facilities. The term of the agreement is for 30 years with an initial term. And there are 2 possible extension terms that are each 10 years But those extension terms must be executed by mutual agreement of the parties. Because of some other concerns that the city had at the time that this agreement was negotiated, the agreement reflects that the city reserves the rights to the subsurface area for utility construction and improvement purposes, which could include potential outfall alignment. And the consideration for the agreement includes the port's release of the city from any costs and liabilities for the Quiet Cove cleanup project in the area. So on the ground, there are two maps here. This map on the left shows, these are, I think these are sewer connections, but this yellow, my geometry is off, but this yellow quadrilateral here shows the area in addition to this area. So everything west of O Avenue to the waterfront in this triangle is covered by the agreement. So as I put in the agenda bill, council's options tonight are if council is happy with the agreement as approved back in December, no action is necessary. But if there are comments or changes that council wants to make to the agreement after the public comments are presented at the hearing, council can certainly make a motion to do that. So I am happy to, if it's helpful, leave the map up or stop sharing and let you all discuss.
Okay, thank you. Much better introduction than I was trying to do. And really the point of this hearing is really to make sure we've heard from the public, we've heard from the port, we've heard the concerns, is to really just make sure we have heard every concern that the public has with this. And I'm confident the city and the port can work together to address those concerns. But with that, any members of the public here want to say a piece, or any of online participants? I've got a couple. All right. Any, Mr. Wara, do you want to add anything? Okay. Council? I'll turn it over to council. Anything to add? Okay. Hearing nothing from our participants, I don't think I ever need to close the public hearing, but I will if I have to. I will close the public hearing and have no further action. Okay, thank you, Council.
Mayor
Miller? Mr. Walters.
I wonder if Ms. Swetnam might address the question of whether we are receiving full value for this property, as would be required under the statute for transfers.
Yeah, so the parties discussed that, and while there isn't any financial payment being made to the city, the consideration that was discussed is that this property will be used for economic development and to bring, improved economic connectivity for the port facilities, but also that the port will by the agreement release the city from any potential liability for cleanup responsibilities related to the Quiet Cove cleanup area, which while the city is not named as potentially a liable party, there is the possibility, because of city infrastructure being within that area, that the city could be brought into cleanup obligations in the future. And so that seems to be value for the city.
And is that release of liability itself contained within the agreement?
We have language to that effect in the agreement, yes.
Does the agreement itself achieve the release, or does it simply mention the release?
The agreement says that the port is releasing the city from liability for the Quiet Cove, but if council would like us to take a look at that and come back with a separate release agreement, I'm sure we can work with the port to do that.
I don't necessarily need a separate one. I just want assurance that that is achieved through this agreement, or a separate one if we need it. I do think it's worth noting for the record here that we did badly on behalf of the public by entering into this agreement prior to holding the public hearing that is required by the statute. It seems to me that whenever we're vacating city property or doing something akin to a vacation, which is happening here, or selling city property, we ought to have a public comment period, whether one is required by the statute or not. And there was another situation where we were considering a property sale almost at the same time as this one, where we also did not have public comment. And I think we wisely stepped back from that. So we need, as a general matter, to have comment on these things and have transparency and awareness of the issue prior to moving forward. But then we also just, where a public hearing is required by statute, we can't get ahead of ourselves and affect the agreement before having that hearing. This entire matter has been really disorganized, I think, starting with months and months of discussions about it before it got to council in a public setting so that we could start talking about it and have a proper hearing. So I think at the end of the day, it probably still makes sense to do this exchange of economic value for the use of the right-of-way. But we can't miss the process along the way because the process informs whether the value is there and whether the exchange makes sense. We, especially in these circumstances where the benefits accrue to the public generally, we've got to hear from the public in order to really know if we're doing the right thing. So I just wanted to put that on the record, an acknowledgement that we didn't do well here, but that we all promise to do better next time.
Thank you, Mr. Walters, and I do agree that the process was, we can do better, and we will do better on that. And again, I've said when I was on council, vacations are supposed to be hard, and we'll endeavor to do that. This, of course, for the public, this is a right-of-way, not a vacation, although 30 years it feels like one. But anyway, as far as the land use, but yep, understood and heard.
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Walters' statements, and I've heard from constituents from the time that council voted to approve this intergovernmental disposition of property, and a lot of people were unhappy about it and felt that they weren't given any notice, and all of a sudden it was presented, it was voted on, boom, right before Christmas when people didn't have an awareness. And so we really did a bad job in this, and I apologize to our citizens for that, because I think that people who have expressed dismay to me, there's a good chance that people aren't here commenting because they see it as a done deal. So this was a very flawed process, and I would urge all of us to not put ourselves in this position again because it's not fair to our citizens. Thanks.
Got it.
Yeah, Mayor Garrett.
Oh, Ms. Cleveland.
Following up, Mr. Walter said it eloquently. I think this is a good project, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the economic impact and realistically on the ground. Absolutely. I think as a council and as a city and our responsibility for having a public hearing, we screwed it up pretty badly. And to Ms. Moulton's credit, she started asking some questions at the time. And I think it, as all of us kind of knew, it made sense, but we need to respect the importance of having a public hearing and that the sequence that it should take so that we can listen to the public, take in that information, and make sure that we are doing what is best. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with this project specifically, but I think as a council, it's our responsibility, and I think we need to be more aware of that. And the other component is that we need to have more communication with the port and the city, and we need to maybe have some of those joint meetings, which I know the port has talked about this last year, and hopefully we can get those on the planned and open to the public so that everyone feels like they know what our long-term goals are and where we can partner and how we are going to have a positive impact on our community. So don't mean to kind of continue the discussion, but I think that's an important thing that folks realize that we do want to see them here. We do want to receive their comment. And we also received quite a bit of comment, say, in support of this, this agreement. So please keep it coming and please continue to show up.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, yeah, I've definitely heard all of those. And I also do feel like, although that we've heard both the pros and the cons of this particular project, and I believe the port and the city will work together to address some of the concerns that were brought up by members of the public and by council members. Okay, moving on to item 6B. 6B is Resolution 3072, reaffirming Ordinance 4008 and confirming the 6-month duration of interim regulations containing the development of daycare in the R4 use zone as permitted use and adopting a work plan. Mr. Meismer, I believe this is you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and the audience. Proposed Resolution 3072 reaffirms Ordinance 4008 regarding the development of daycare 2 as a permitted use in the R4 use zone and adopts a work plan beginning when work with the Planning Commission and stakeholders in March, April, and progressing to the City Council quickly after that. Ordinance 4008 provides interim regulations allowing daycare 2, which is defined as more than 12 adults or children in a 24-hour period. As a permitted use in the R4 use zone, it was previously considered a conditional use permit, which was an expensive and strenuous process. So this makes it a lot easier and it encourages more daycare development. The resolution adopts the work plan to proceed with public meetings with stakeholders and the Planning Commission and discussing the possible impacts and solutions. So we're looking forward to getting started at the Planning Commission level, and we'll report back to council as soon as possible. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Okay, council, over to you for discussion, comments.
Mayor
Mayor
Miller?
Miller?
All right, Ms. Moulton and then Mr. Walters.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Meismer. I'm just curious, I'm not sure, I'm definitely in favor of this. So we approved the ordinance on January 10th and we're on February 7th and we're reaffirming it. I'm not sure why we're doing this again. What's different this time?
Thank you, Ms. Moulton. So we're required to hold a public hearing and adopt a work plan. And so this evening, the resolution adopts the work plan that allows us to continue the interim regulations for another 6 months while we discuss it at Planning Commission, City Council, and adopt regulations as a primary part of the code.
Okay, so we said we were going to do a work plan initially and now we're actually adopting it.
We're re-adopting the work plan, yes.
Okay, I don't know if that answered my question. Why am I just?
Sure. So Ordinance 4008 was extending the interim regulations for another period of 6 months. To do that, we also have to, by resolution, hold a public hearing and adopt a work plan. The previous interim regulations timeframe had ran out, and we had not finished our work at the Planning Commission level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Walters.
The one thing I would add, it's fine to proceed with the work plan as presented here, but the one consideration is that when we start with these conceptual level development regulation efforts like this, we don't have a specific proposal in front of us. So you'll take it to the Planning Commission, you'll get some feedback. The proposal that then goes out for public comment and gets developed through that public comment process isn't one that there will be any check-in with the City Council on until almost the end of the process, which is sort of a defect in the development regulation creation process. And in the past, we have addressed that by having a programmed check-in with the City Council. And it seems to me that we ought to work on methods for doing that in the future.
Very well.
Okay, any other comments? So I know this is a discussion, possible action.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton?
I move to approve Resolution 3072 as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Ms. Cleland to adopt Resolution 3072 as presented. Ms. Hunt?
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. On to other business, item 7, a contract award, fire station planning and design services for Phase 1. And let's see, it's going to be Chief Harris or Chief Kennedy? Who?
Mayor?
Okay, there we go. All right. You're
Mayor
on.
Miller, Mayor Miller, Council, and honored guests, thank you for allowing me to present to you tonight. I would like to share my screen here. I do have a short presentation.
All right, we can see it.
Okay, are you seeing the full screen?
Not yet.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Full presentation mode. You're
Okay.
on.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to start with a little bit of how we got here. So in 1999, the city annexed portions of the Highway 20 corridor that were identified in the Anacortes urban growth area. The city at that time assumed responsibility for fire and EMS responses in this area. Initially, emergency vehicles responded from the main fire station on 13th Street to meet these obligations. Over time, as the call volume increased and response delays became more prevalent, City Council authorized additional firefighters during the busier times of day. So in 2007, the city leased a structure for a temporary fire station on Molly Lane. This station was initially staffed 12 hours a day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. In 2019, Skagit County significantly changed the EMS delivery model for a fire-based system countywide. This model has been a long-standing practice for the city of Anacortes, so the model itself was nothing new for us, but we now had to increase our response areas. And so as part of the redistricting, the Anacortes Fire Department's primary response area extended further to the east and encompassed a significantly larger area of West Skagit County. So you can see the area here in yellow was the additional part of our response area for Station 3, which almost doubled its size. Also, our secondary response area, which goes all the way up here in green and off the map here, we basically go everywhere to the west of Chuckanut Road, all the way up to Sandwich Island, and then all the way down to Valentine Ridge, down South Best Road, and also including all of the town of LaConner. So at that time, when the city expanded the services, we began staffing Fire Station 3 on a 24/7 basis. In 2021, Council authorized a needs assessment to build a permanent fire station in the annexation area. So we advertised for a request for qualifications to elicit firms to complete the process. We received 3 qualified proposals prior to the expiration date of the bid, and after review and scoring of the proposals, TCA Architecture was chosen to continue in the process. TCA was selected based upon scoring criteria, which included but is not limited to prior experience with light projects and available resources. A scope of work was established and a fixed price was negotiated. 3 areas of priority have been identified to complete in the early stages. That being a critical area survey, property survey, and cultural resources. Since the property was purchased, there's been a significant change in our city's regulations, especially regarding the critical areas. And so we want to make sure that we're still able to meet that. The property in question is 9338 South Marches Point Road. The city purchased this property in 2003 for the express purpose of building a permanent station. You can see here that the property is fronted on South March Point Road, and the rear abuts against Highway 20. Some additional items that are included in the needs assessment are identifying potential partner agencies. We will have a design to 30%, and we will get input and cost estimates from civil, structural, and mechanical engineers. And it will also provide the city with a overall project estimate for budgeting to complete the total build. At this point, staff recommends approval of contract 21134 AFP 001. And does council have any questions?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I'm very supportive of us building the third fire station and moving out of our rented space, especially before our lease is up there.
Yes.
I have been very supportive of us moving forward on this. I think that the expansion of our service area is a good reason to do that, but there were good reasons to do that even before we expanded our service area. My only concern is that this contract seems to be a lot of money for not a complete design for a fire station and not a complete architect's estimate for the cost of the fire station. And we will have 30% design. I would like us to get through this contract and then go for the bond to finance the station and get it built and not delay further. I assume that we did this through an RFQ and we did not negotiate price until we'd selected a consultant.
That is correct, Mr. Walters. We did go through the
So we didn't have bids to compare for, which is usual, but still, how do we know that this is the best price for the work that we're getting here?
That is correct. Basically, what we were able to do is when we developed the scope of work, then the contractor went out and solicited bids from all the subcontractors. My assumption on that would be that the subcontractors would be the same price, whether it was contractor A requesting it or contractor B requesting it for the same work.
Okay, that's a good argument.
So I always have a hard time with these 30% contracts as well. I'll just say that out loud because that's what I'm thinking. And but for something that's going to be a multi-million-dollar, we all know it's going to be a multi-million-dollar project to pull off. I am pleased to see that there's an element of the contract that includes partner agencies, because I think we've talked about a number of times at council about partnering with other fire districts or the tribes to come up with the best solution there. But I agree, it's a pricey one. Any other comments from council?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton.
Thanks. Just a quick question. How large is that property?
I don't have that right here in front of me.
Okay. Well, my
Sure,
only...
recalls it was about 4 acres.
Okay, so it's plenty of room. I noticed in the fire station programming and design section of Exhibit A, it says they want to make sure to show the facility will fit on the site and identify the long-term needs with the constraints of the proposed site. So that to me made it almost sound like they were worried about the size of the site, but 4 acres seems more than sufficient. Is that correct?
It is, and there's enough room on this site to not only build a fire station, but also, should we need to move the training center from its current location, there would be enough room on this property to do that as well. And if you'll see in Exhibits C and D, we have it priced out separately for the station itself and then for the training center. That way we can give council options whether we want to move forward with both now, or we can move forward with just the fire station and then at least have a good estimate as to what it's going to cost to move the training center should the need arise at a later date.
Ms. Cleland.
Thank you. So that's, Mr. Kennedy, that's kind of what I was thinking when I read through it was, are we, in this 30% design, are we also considering the fact that Station 1 is kind of maxed out? And I know there's been some discussion that may need some updating. Are we able to utilize this Station 3 potentially to alleviate some of that pressure? And is that part of this scope of work? Kind of having an overall look at all 3 stations, and since we've got 4 acres there, can we plan ahead 10, 20 years?
Absolutely, and actually we're thinking ahead probably even more than 20 years. I expect this station to probably be here for probably between 30 and 40 years. And the answer to your question is yes, that's going to be part of the needs assessment when we get together with the partnering agencies as well. We want to design this facility so that we can take some of the resources from our other stations and perhaps from some of our partnering agencies as well, and be able to accommodate that now and into the future.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
Also, through this process, I assume we are going to be making choices like a metal roof to maintain the facility long term, and maybe electronic door locks for security. But how are we preventing the choice for the gold-plated faucets and the black stainless steel refrigerators? How are we managing that?
That's a good question. The intent here is not to design a Taj Mahal. The goal here is to design a functioning workstation that will meet the needs of the department as we move forward, but it is not to put in every single amenity that is out there known to man.
And concomitant with that, if we're talking about a fire station downtown Anacortes, maybe we want to engage an architect to make it an attractive facility. But out at March's Point, where almost no one will see it, do I assume correctly we're not going to turn the architect loose to design a fancy facility, but maybe design a modular facility that we can add on to in the future if we need to?
Absolutely. Those discussions have already been made preliminarily with the architect.
Okay. Good.
Any other comments? Okay, this is a discussion item or possible action. Council?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I would move approval as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Ms. Hubik to award the contract award Fire Station Planning and Design Service Phase 1 as presented. Ms. Hunt, would you take the vote, please?
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I would ask unanimous consent for us to reconsider item 5C, the purchase of the Chevy Silverado that we postponed earlier tonight.
Okay, I think I need a second for that.
So, yeah, do we want to say why? Isn't that worth mentioning?
Yeah, can you make your argument, Mr. Walters?
Reviewing the RCW that allows us to consider sales tax seems to indicate, well, it does indicate that we're allowed to consider sales tax if we would receive the sales tax. We wouldn't in this case because the purchase would be outside of our jurisdiction. Be in the county, it'd be a benefit to the county and it'd be a benefit to us, but the statute doesn't allow us to consider it that broadly. So we're not going to get a benefit from delaying and reviewing this further. Instead, we would get some benefit from approving it now to make sure we're able to purchase it while it's still on the lot.
Okay, that sounds like an argument, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Ms. Moulton to approve, essentially approve item 5C on the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that catch and that work. Okay, being no further business, appreciate the work tonight, and I will adjourn the council meeting.